I don't have the experience of being homeless, but today and for the last nearly 5 years, I've been running an organisation that works predominantly with the homeless and the needy. So I've gotten to be able to hear some great stories. But where I did want to start is how I got here today. And I started in that description talking about being a deportee. So I was born here in New Zealand, and my parents moved to Australia when I was a year old. And they actually moved over there because they wanted to get away from the gang life that was here, and in the hopes to give me a better life. Unfortunately, I chose that life over in Australia. I became a gang member when I was 24 years old, and I was in gang life for about 10 years, just over 10 years as a gang member, and then stayed within that lifestyle for probably a total of 15 to 17 years. Being involved in drugs, being involved in crime, being involved in violence. And then through those choices, I landed in jail. I did some time in jail, but I also spent a lot of time in the courtrooms. The last time I was in the courtroom was in 2011, 12, 13, for crimes for 3 different cases. I say these things not to boast about them, not to talk about them, but not to boast about them, but to talk about them. And as if to say who that person was at that time, who I was. I was arrested in 2016 after leaving that lifestyle in 2013, and arrested by the police and taken in for immigration deportation. It was in that cell in Bankstown, Sydney, Australia, where I heard a voice that I hadn't heard before, and put the question, or proposed the question to me of, you've tried this lifestyle, and showing me the criminal lifestyle that I had left. I had then also started a business and got a trade, and he said, you tried this legitimate lifestyle also. And then he goes, why don't you try my lifestyle, my life? And I believe that was God's voice. I didn't grow up religious, I didn't grow up of faith. My parents were loving, kind parents. They worked hard, and they drank and they partied with family. So I wasn't sure of this voice, but I thought, I'll give it a go. It was in that process, I spent 9 months in detention, and I was 5 months or 4 months in Sydney, and then the last 5 months in Villawood Detention Centre in Christmas Island. So I went from Villawood to Christmas Island. Very hard place to be. And then eventually chose and signed paperwork to come to New Zealand. When I arrived here, I didn't want to be here. In actual fact, I used to say things like, I hate this place. I hate the tree. I hate the wind. I hate the weather. I hate the sun. I hate the grass. And it was in these first 6 months where I would find the biggest struggles of all. And it would have been probably the closest time I would have had things gone worse. I would have faced homelessness. I would have returned back to drugs. I would have returned back to violence. I would have returned back to being a criminal. But what I felt was the biggest thing for me was staying in touch with God. But eventually I found a home in a church and people, and then I met my today best friend, and I met who's also my boss. And he started showing me a different way, and a way to change your lifestyle completely, in the sense of transformation, not only internally, physically, mentally, and spiritually, to look at things in a different way. And I started serving our community. For myself, I started particularly in the city, in an area where Chancery Square and Ellen Melville Centre, and started working with our local community in need there. They're people just like us. They're people that need love. They're people that need affection. They're people that need encouragement. Why do they choose to be there? And they're not all are choosing to be there. Some of them have had those choices made for them through their childhood trauma, through their abuse, physical, mental, sexual. They've been there from decisions that may have been made for them through family, in rejection. They may be there from decisions made not by them but by family and poverty, not being able to afford a place to stay or whatever those circumstances may be. And unfortunately, they have become accustomed to that place. Now, we all understand that we all probably have safety nets or safety blankets in our life, or we have had these things. I have myself. Mine was violence. I hid behind my violence. I felt my violence kept me safe, because if I was violent enough, that person would stay away from me. What really I didn't want him to do, my violence was my shield, but I didn't want him to hurt my heart. My heart was something that could be very easily hurt. And it's something that I recognized in our community. So they would be more comfortable in that place, because if you're living out on the streets, how can you get rejected? If you're living out on the streets, how can you fall down and crash? Because they've probably had it so many times in our life. And as have we. We've experienced these things. At the end of the day, I think what I really want to share and encourage you guys with is that they're people too. There's so many people that have been out on the streets, that have been in places like education institutions. They've been hard workers, they've had homes, they've had families, and that has crashed around them and has put them in a place where they're sleeping in their car or sleeping out on the streets like you will be tonight.